this video, you'll learn the exact 3-part framework that'll guarantee conversational fluency in Spanish in between 2 and 12 months. Before I start the video, I just have to say that it's almost impossible to reach fluency in Spanish or in any other language in less than a month. And if you try to, you're stupid and you're probably gonna fail. All the videos that you've seen of people learning Spanish in 30 days or less are fake, staged, or just wrong. So obviously Spanish is a very useful language. It's the 4th most spoken language in the world, and it's got huge communities of both native speakers and learners who are willing to help you along every step of your journey. It's also a category 1 language, meaning it's in the category of languages that's easiest for English speakers to learn. And because it's the most spoken category 1 language, learning it is a no-brainer. So if you clicked on this video, you're probably already here to learn Spanish, so enough convincing and let's get on to the simple 3-part framework. Part 1 is want. With language learning, and with basically anything you do, the only way you can make sure you do it often is to maximize the reason to do it and to minimize the reason not to. Imagine you doing stuff as a balance. On one side of the balance is the reason to do stuff, and on the other side is the reason not to do stuff. The only time you ever do stuff is when the reasons to do it outweighs the reason not to. So for example, going to the gym. On the days that you go to the gym, you feel motivated, you feel like going to the gym is going to be fun. You think of the benefits of going to the gym, and that far outweighs the reasons not to, so like the pain or the investment of time. But when you skip the gym, it's because the reasons not to go to the gym outweighs the reason to go. So you might feel unmotivated, you might just be sick, or you might have to prioritize something else. The reasons to go are still there, but they are vastly outweighed by the reasons not to. And the reason why I'm talking about the gym is because it's the same with language learning and with basically any other habit. The only way you can make sure you do it is to maximize the reasons to do it and to minimize the reasons not to. So there's 3 ways to maximize wanting to learn Spanish. Understand the benefits. Because there's so many speakers, learning Spanish will open the doors to making many new friends. Not only because you're able to speak another language, but also because knowing Spanish is automatically a common interest, whether it's a native or a learner. It'll probably also help you to get a better position in whatever career you're pursuing because of the increased reputation / respect earned from knowing another language, and also because it'll allow you to speak to more people, so you might be able to, network with more people or have more clients or whatnot. You can make it fun. Duolingo does this with their leaderboards, stories, and fun lessons. They make learning languages have as little friction as possible with how simple and fun the lessons are, and the fun, friendly competition that the leaderboards bring. That's not an ad, by the way, but even without Duolingo, you could do this. Like, if you know someone else learning Spanish, you could try to compete with them to see who could make the most progress or learn the most words in the shortest amount of time. Or you could also join some kind of language learning community. So, personally, I'm opening a Discord soon where you can speak to other like-minded people about self-improvement, and you can practice your Spanish there with whoever else speaks Spanish. And number 3 is to have discipline. If you're committed to learning Spanish, you have to just tell yourself that you will know Spanish someday, and all you have to do is take the steps necessary to reach your goal. You could keep yourself accountable for your Spanish learning habits. I would recommend like a habit tracker or some kind of way of making sure that you do the habit every single day. I've got a video coming up about accountability, discipline, and consistency, so subscribe down below with the notification bell and you should see it in your notifications soon. So now, ways to minimize not wanting to learn Spanish. Again, make it fun, minimize friction, find an app that you might like. So for me it was Duolingo, for you it could be Duolingo, Babbel, or all the other Spanish apps, or a textbook if you're a weirdo. Don't overwhelm yourself. I see people spending like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours when starting out, and then they wonder why they get burnt out. Consistency is key, even if it is 1 minute a day, because then you don't get burnt out and your brain recognizes that this is a habit you do every day, like brushing your teeth. So after a bit you can increase how long you do, so you can go from like 5 minutes a day to 10 to 15, or now I'm on an hour, but I've been learning for 2 years, so but the key is to form the habit. Don't be discouraged. Knowing some Spanish is better than not knowing any. And just because someone learned Spanish faster or better than you doesn't mean that you can't. So part 2 is learn. Obviously, to get fluent in Spanish, you need to learn Spanish. You must learn the grammar, the vocabulary, the pronunciation of its words. And you must at least learn the basics before pursuing any kind of Spanish commitment, like traveling to a Spanish country or watching a Spanish show or reading a book. Because you'll just get overwhelmed and discouraged when you realize that you can't even partially digest any of that Spanish. So don't think about anything else before learning the basic vocabulary and the grammar. So you can do this with units 1 and 2 of Duolingo. So step 2 is to learn what's relevant to you. Once you've got the basics down, you can think about 3 things that you like. So for me, it would be cooking, exercise, and mental health. And then you just go on Google Translate and translate a bunch of words from that topic. Or if you're traveling, you can just find words that are relevant to where you're traveling to or a dish you want to order. So just write down these words and phrases that are relevant to you and just talk to yourself as you go about your life, out loud or in your head. So for example, I might just randomly say, voy a meditar en 5 minutos. Or me gusta cocinar el pollo porque es muy fácil y sabe muy bien. Step 3 is to get used to it. Have the identity of a Spanish speaker and make it part of your daily routine. You can get used to it by speaking to another Spanish speaker often, or just by talking to yourself. Or what I like to do, every day I like to write at least one sentence in Spanish, just waffling about anything, just to get myself used to, writing and just how comfortable I am with my vocabulary in that. Or sometimes when I gratitude journal, I just switch things up and I do it in Spanish. So that can help me, get better at my Spanish vocabulary. And it's not very hard because of step 2, where we learn words that are relevant to me. So if I learn about what the word meditation means and I wrote about it in my gratitude journal, it won't be very hard because I could just write, me gusta meditar, es muy bueno para mí, or was it para yo? I don't know, I'm not that great. Part 3 is to immerse yourself. So the last 2 parts were mostly for if you wanted to get just conversationally fluent in Spanish. And they'll still be very useful at this stage. In fact, they're essential for learning Spanish at any stage. So if I have to be honest, I'm not actually fluent in Spanish. I'm in between an A2 and a B1, but I've done hours of research on getting fluent in Spanish and I'm implementing a lot of the things I learned. So to immerse yourself, you could do something like you could watch a show. I really recommend Narcos. It's about Pablo Escobar and all of his shenanigans. It's really fun. In fact, it was one of the reasons I started to learn Spanish along with Breaking Bad. I know Breaking Bad's not all Spanish, but a lot of Breaking Bad is, especially the later seasons. So if you just turn off the subtitles, you'll be able to kind of hear all the Spanish vocabulary they use. So you could also read a book. I've heard that this is the best tip. If you're already almost fluent, you can get a full-on book, just translated from English into Spanish. I would recommend getting a book that you already have, so I'm doing that with How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just get a Spanish version and then you'll be able to cross-compare if you're confused about any words. This is great for if you want to learn words that are relevant to you and just natural words that you'd see in a book. Or like I said earlier, you could speak to another Spanish speaker, preferably like a native or someone who's like high up in Spanish learning already. And another method which I'm using is just analyzing a TED Talk. I saw this on some guy's YouTube channel, I'll show that right here. But what he did and what I'm doing now is get a TED Talk and just get the Spanish transcript and just watch that TED Talk over and over and over again and translate all the words on there. Eventually you should be able to understand the TED Talk as if it's English. And that's basically it. There might be more. Obviously, professional coaching is very good. So to summarize, part 1 is want. Maximize the reason to learn Spanish, minimize the reason not to, and discipline yourself to learn Spanish every single day. Understand that it's a slow journey and the time's going to pass whether you spend it learning Spanish or not. Part 2 is learn. Begin with the basics and nothing else. Once you know the basics, move on to what's relevant to you. Translate words that you use on a daily basis and talk to yourself. Spend time talking with Spanish speakers. Try to shove Spanish into your life any way you can so you get used to it. Part 3 is immerse. Read books, watch shows, watch podcasts, analyze these things, make notes, use them every day, speak to native Spanish speakers, have deep conversations with them in Spanish. Do whatever you can to make sure Spanish is in your life as much as possible. So if you found this video useful, please let me know down below in the comments. And if you have any criticisms or suggestions or whatever, leave those down below too. In fact, if this video has convinced you to learn Spanish, I encourage you to send this video to a friend and try to have some kind of, competition to see who can learn Spanish faster. Anyways, I'm going to get back to learning Spanish now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.